Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sagar Chavda. My today's presentation topic is instability, artifice, and moral choice in Thomas Gray's Elegy. Here are my academic and presentation details. This is the table of content. My research question is: how does the Elegy's celebrated formal artifice, particularly its foundational syntactic instability, functions not as a mere decoration but as the primary vehicle through which the poem navigates its central tensions between the individual and society, sincerity and rhetoric, life and death, to arrive at its concluding affirmation of a contemplative moral life. My hypothesis is the elegy deploys a highly controlled poetic structure to legitimize a radical sympathy for the obscure dead. By concluding with the poet's own epitaph, the poem resolves its central tensions, framing a life of humble contemplation as a virtuous moral choice and a validation affirmative to the corrupting pursuit of public fame. Introduction. The poem Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard was published in 1751 and it was said to be begun in 1742, and it took 9 years to Thomas Gray to complete this poem. And after its publication, it was met with immediate and widespread acclaim for its universal emotional appeal. Even uh, Samuel Johnson said about the elegy that with images which find a mirror in every mind, and with sentiments to which every bosom returns an echo. The elegy's enduring power lies in sophisticated technique, which combines a personal, sincere mode of expression with a highly controlled and often concealing poetic diction. Its literary context is that the poem serves as a bridge between Neoclassicism or the Augustan age to pre-Romantic settings. In form and decorum, the poem follows and adheres to neoclassical values of order through its use of the heroic quatrains and elevated diction. That we can see in the plowman homeward plods his weary way. And for the thematic part of the poem, it follows the romantic steerings. The poem champions emotion, validates the lives of the rural poor, and finds profound meaning in the natural landscape. The poem can also be associated with the graveyard school that represents the apex of this poetic subgenre, which used meditations on mortality to explore deeper moral questions. The opening stanza says and serves as an architecture of insecurity. From its first lines, the poem establishes a radical syntactic insecurity that sets the tone for the entire meditation. The opening lines are: the curfew tolls the knell of parting day. Here, the knell acts as a cognate object, repeating the verb's meaning. The redundancy creates a lack of fixity and introduces a pervasive sense of ambiguity from the outset. The syntax of mortality, blurring distinctions. Gray's fluid syntax consistently confuses subject and object, which poetically questions humanity's capacity to act as a stable agent in the face of destiny. This technique is a stark departure from the grammatical precision and clarity that defined the Augustan poetics of writers like Swift, Pope, and Dryden. Thematically, this instability mirrors the work of death itself, which universally destroys individuality and blurs the temporary differences between people. Here's the example. In the poem, death can be exemplified as the great leveler, who levels the position, power, and ambitions of poor and wealthy in a level. So we can say that the great leveler uh, uh, serves as leveling both the position and everything that virtuous people or anyone poor or rich, it diminishes the distinction of earthly pleasures and earthly accumulations. The grand destiny of ambitious arrives at the same end as the humble path of the obscure. A study case in ambiguity, the awaits controversy. Line 35 presents a key textual uncertainty. Awaits like the inevitable hour. Early editions show both the singular awaits and the plural await. While the plural may seem more grammatically natural, the singular reading unlocks a deeper, more unsettling meaning. The syntactic confusion creates a wide range of meanings. The inevitable hour can be read as the active subject of the sentence, an agent that lies in ambush for humanity. This interpretation suggests that the very act of living is a movement toward inaction, and that death, though a passive state, is an active force that destroys. Here, Gray wants to say that either death waits for you, or human are passively waiting for the death. The moral value of obscurity. A central dynamic in the poem is the contrast between the vibrant communal life of the poor and their solitary state in the grave. The obscurity, however, is framed as a form of moral protection. It not only limited their virtues but also confirmed their potential for crime. Here is the example from the poem. Poetic design, the dialectic of artifice and sincerity. The villager's latent genius is compared to treasures hidden from the world, just like full many a gem of purest ray, serene. This kind of gems especially lies in deep sea, and not everyone can see that. Just as the flower in the next line, in the next quadrant, are in the desert. So the life of poor and the life of villagers mainly overlooked by the world because they have talent, but they are just like mute inglorious Milton and guiltless Cromwell. The telos of the elegy, a resolution of moral choice. The two paths. Here a critic says the French the elegy is a poem of moral choice and resolution. The speaker weighs the public life of glory against the private life of humble virtue. The virtue of obscurity in the final affirmation we can see in the epitaph. Conclusion, synthesis, and enduring resonance. In literary context, the poem follows the Augustinism, and in thematic structure, it is mostly based on Romanticism. Here are my references. Thank you. If anyone has questions.
So my question is, what does syntactic instability mean in Gray's elegy?
So the syntactic instability means in Gray's elegy, where he uses such kind of poetic devices, such as inversion, to artifice the poem and to not present the ideas and beliefs in a simple manner, just to elevate the structure of the poem. Anyone has another question?
So, Sagar, my question to you is that in what ways does Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard bridge neoclassical form and romantic sensibility?
So the clear distinction we can find in, as the poem is a transitional, the poet is a transitional poet, and this elegy can be seen as the most important single poem of the mid 18th century, and because this poem does not only reflect one idea, just as Wordsworth and Coleridge says in Romanticism, and Pope and Swift says and emphasize on reason and everything in the Neoclassicism. In form, structure, and decorum, and every kind of structure, it follows mainly in the first stanza. It starts with quatrains. Rhyme scheme is AB, AB. and we can say that iambic pentameter, it also follows in structure and form and decorum. It follows the rules of neoclassicism, and when it comes to the themes in the exploration of ideas, it adheres to the ideas of pre-romanticism, where it follows and answers the and mainly concerns with the themes of poor common people, just as Wordsworth and Coleridge did in the preceding era. Thank you.